So we're going to talk about incentives now. And the best way to drive your competitive people is through incentives. Now, 20% of your people are going to be highly competitive. You know the kind. If you have a race, they win. If you have a beer drinking contest, they nearly kill themselves trying to get the beer down their throat fast enough. If you do whatever you're doing, there's always those people who absolutely have to win at everything. And you know them, I know them, and you can drive those people very hard in your team. 20% of your people are like that. So why not have a strategy that really focuses on those 20% of competitive people? So the first goal with an incentive is that you want to have a lot of winners. You don't want to have a situation where only one person takes the prize, because that demotivates and demoralizes your entire network if only one person wins. You've got to have a plan where you can have a lot of winners. The next, you've got to have a level playing field. You don't want a situation where your people who have been in for 2 years or 5 years or 10 years just automatically take the prizes. That's terrible, because again, it motivates and demoralizes your network. You want something that absolutely keeps driving, continuously driving those competitive people during the incentive program. You want this thing to increase your turnover. The idea is not to go out there and give away an incentive. The idea is to increase turnover and, of course, increase team sales. And just a comment I'd like to make here. If you want to double your turnover, the easiest way to do that is double your number of active agents. The simplest way to do it. So your incentives need to be doubling, increasing turnover, increasing team size as key goals. Then you want to reward the top performers. Those guys who are really making it happen, you want to reward them. And then, of course, you want to retain people. And these incentives tend to have a huge impact on retention. So, prize options. You can do just about anything. If you're really small, obviously you have to make your products and your incentives in line with the size of your company. It's no good small South African company offering people a $50,000 trip to Rio. I mean, that's not going to work, because you've got to be able to fund this thing, and you've got to be able to make sure that the people who win it can actually go. So you can start with smaller items as a smaller company, but as you get momentum and as your turnover goes up, you can start looking at bigger and bigger prizes. But a prime example is white goods, electronic goods, things like tablets or laptops, things that can help people in their business. Pamper sessions. Now, guys, if you're selling motor oil, giving a bunch of burly guys a pamper session at the local spa is probably not the best way to go. So it has to be relatively in line with what you're doing. But you've got a bunch of ladies who are selling cosmetics and who want to go. I mean, that would be a perfect type of incentive. Send them on a pamper session, a weekend at a spa, something like that. Experiences are great. For instance, get a cooking course from this top chef, or strip an engine with this top company, whatever. You can have all sorts of experiences as prizes. And then exclusive club members. Let's say you're selling sporting gear, you could make them an exclusive club members of some exotic golf course, example. The number one incentive in the world, across the board, and from every single company that I've ever spoken to, the number one incentive is travel. This is something that is out of reach for a large number of people, and it's something that really drives people to stretch and go beyond the call of duty, so to say. When I had Acorn Kids, we did an incentive to Mauritius, and some of the people who went to Mauritius with us had never been in an aeroplane, had never traveled overseas, had never even eaten in a restaurant. One of the people had never even eaten in a restaurant in their lives. And so we were able to take this person in an aeroplane across the oceans to this exotic resort and show them the most amazing time and completely electrify them in our business. So travel is a huge one, and my suggestion is, the second you can afford to do travel as an incentive, this is where you should be going. Now, you need to rank your prizes, because remember, you're trying to drive your competitive people. And you don't want a situation where the person in first place takes their foot off the gas because, okay, they've won, nobody's ever going to knock them out of the winning circle, so they just coast. No, so what you do is you give the person in first place a bigger prize than the person in fourth place. Let's say you're giving away TVs. Person in first place gets a 60-inch TV, the person in fourth place gets a tiny little 15-inch TV. So you can actually rank these prizes in such a way that everybody in the winning circle is still fighting for the position above them and defending the person who's coming up from behind them. Now, when you do your incentives, you have a timeline. So the idea is not to have an annual incentive. If you have an annual incentive, what happens is everybody only starts working in the 3 months of the incentive. So when you start your incentive, you need that incentive to run over time. So an example is you'd start your incentive in February. So you'd have an incentive running over 3 months, February, March, and April. And then in May, you would have a weekend seminar where you'd announce the winners. Then you would launch, in May, you'd launch the next segment. You'd give them the timeline for the next segment. Anybody who won in February, March, and April would not be able to enter the June, July, August competition. And the idea here is that a new group of people are going to be fighting for that incentive. Again, in September, you have a weekend seminar, you announce the winners. Then the next session is in October, November, December. They do the volumes that they need to do in that time. And then in January, you have your national convention. So now in January, what happens is you have a big show, and this is where you hand out the prizes and you get everybody excited and get them on stage and give them their tickets and all of that kind of stuff. And then you have got until May to organize, to deliver the actual trip. So this gives you time to organize the trip. Now, the beauty is that you're going to have people from February and the June and the October session all going away on one trip together. So you have a lot more people congregated together on the trip. Now, why travel? One of the things I love about travel is that you have a group of parade horses. You have videos and pictures that you can post on the web where these people have been on this exotic trip, and you can parade them out every time you talk about the business, and you can show everybody what an amazing business this is by showing this incredible lifestyle video. The second thing is that you can have a large group of people coming. So you can have a hit it and get it campaign, and I'll talk in detail about numbers and things in a moment, but you can have a large group of people. So let's say you had 10 winners over 3 different incentive sessions. Then you would have 30 people who are you're taking away on this exotic holiday. Suddenly you got a big group of people. When I was with Rainbow as a kid, we won a trip to Dallas and to Disney World, and they booked an entire jumbo out. The jumbo was full of Rainbow people that got flown overseas, and we had the most incredible time together as a group. So getting a group of your top performers together is really powerful. And then while they're away, you've got all your top performers together. So you can train and motivate those people while you're away. Have them so pumped up by the time they come back from the trip, they're just ready to hit the ground running. Okay, so funding this thing is really simple. It actually gets funded out of your compensation plan. So when you're planning your compensation plan, normally you will allocate approximately 5% to incentives. So every single month your compensation plan runs, it should allocate that 5%, and that 5% should be paid out as if it was compensation each month into the compensation bank account. Now, please don't do what I did. Don't announce a compensation plan. Go through the year building it up, and then the following year, go rushing around trying to borrow money to ensure that you can take your people on that incentive. I mean, that's a disaster, because if you can't take them, you lose them. I mean, your credibility is shot if you don't take them. So make sure that every month you are actually physically banking that 5%. So when it comes time to paying for the incentive, you've actually got the money in the bank. Then assess what the prize is going to cost. Let's say we're taking a group of people to Mauritius, and we work out it's going to cost us $1,000 for a ticket. So for one person to go, let's say it costs $1,000. I don't know what it is. I haven't looked, but let's call it $1,000. Then what you do is you say, well, the company's turning over $1 million a month. So if we take 5% of that, we've got $5,000 per month going into our incentive plan, which means that we have got 5 winners that we can take with us to Mauritius, because 5,000 divided by 1,000 gives us 5 winners. Now, that's per month. So at the end of the 3-month cycle, you've got 15 people who you're taking on your incentive. And then if you've got 3 incentives during the year, you're suddenly taking 45 people to Mauritius with you. Suddenly you've got a big group of people, and you can do something really exciting with it. Now, the way that you get these guys or ascertain whether they've done a good job and they can win this competition, and this is where we start getting into the weeds here, and I hope that I can do this justice, because it's just numbers everywhere. But what you do is you assign incentive points to the product. Now, these incentive points are not based on the selling price of the products. They are based on whatever you decide to base them on. So you can say, listen, I'm going to give more product points or incentive points to a product that's got a higher profit margin for me. Or I'm going to give more incentive points to a product that isn't moving and I've got a ton of it sitting on my shelf. So you can make a decision of how you're going to assign points to your product. And you can change those points during the cycle. So you could come out with an email one week and say, listen, we've got all of the stock lying here, and what we're going to do is we're going to give double incentive points on this particular product. So quickly climb in, buy these products and start selling them, and you'll get double incentive points on that. So you can drive specific products or specific services by making the incentive points greater without changing your profit margins, without changing the commissions, etc. Then the points get assigned to the IBOs based on what they sell. So I go out and I sell 10 points worth of products, I've got 10 points. So each IBO in the entire network is going to be given points based on the amount of product they sell, or the amount of service they move, or whatever your product is or service is. They get points based on the sale or the recruiting of people into that service. Then the total points that you accumulate determine your ranking in the incentive. So here, as I said, we get into the weeds, and I hope I can do this justice. So the first thing you want to do is create a level playing field. In other words, you've got a team leader here, and here you've got a new IBO. And the team leader's got a big team, and the IBO's got nobody. So the situation is, if you just put the team leader up against the IBO, obviously the team leader is going to win every time. So what you do, and what's really simple, is you say, listen, all previous recruits, as of the date that the incentive starts, do not count to the incentive. So if you've got a team of 10,000 people, well, you can't use any of their points towards your incentive. So it's you and the IBO are now on a completely level playing ground. Then you say to them, anybody you recruit during the period of the incentive will count towards the incentive. Now both the team leader and the IBO have got equal opportunity to recruit and train people into the business. Then you say to them, listen, we're going to assign you points based on your personal sales, and we're going to assign you points based on your recruit sales. But here's the kicker. If you've only got 10 points and your recruit has got 40 points, you can only harvest up to as many points as you personally have. So you've got 10 points, they've got 40 points, you can only get 10 points from them. You've got 10 points, they've got 150 points, you can only get 10 points from them. The only way you can get more points is to up your sales. And so if you've got 40 points, you could now harvest 40 points from each of them. In this scenario here, and for those of you who are watching the podcast, now might be a good time for you to go to MLM for CEOs and actually watch the webinar. But over here, you can see that team leader A, over here, he managed to get 10 points from himself and 10 points from each of his people. He's got a total of 30 points. If you have a look at the new IBO here, he personally did 100 points in sales. Each of his IBOs did 5 points and 90 points respectively. And so he manages to get himself 195 points because he's got such high personal sales. So as you can see, what happens here is that the IBO can beat the team leader just purely on the basis that he went out and sold more products. If the team leader wanted to do better, that team leader could lift their personal sales to 150 points and would then win the competition. Next, you can load the points. So you can say, okay, well, we don't want to have a situation where the team leader is completely disadvantaged, because a team leader doesn't really want to be outselling. They want to be driving their team. So you can say, okay, personal points, you get 5 downline points for each 1 personal point you've got. So if you've got 10 personal points, you can harvest 50 points from your downline. So in these two scenarios, I've done the math over here again. In that scenario, the team leader would have 100 points, which brings them a lot closer, but the IBO would still have 195 points. So again, IBO would win. Then you could limit personal points. Now, one of the challenges you have with incentives is that the guys buy the incentives. So shortly before the incentives end, they see, wow, we only need to buy 10,000 rands of the product and we're going to win. And they go in and they buy 10,000 rands of the product. And then they win. And that's not fair. That's not the idea at all. It's not for somebody to buy the competition. So what you can say is, okay, we're going to limit personal points. So you could limit personal points to a maximum of 3. And I've done the math over here. And in this case, the team leader would get 93 points and the IBO would get 98 points. You can see how that's bringing things a lot closer together. The other way to do it is to say, well, look, it's not fair to pit an IBO and a team leader against each other, because the team leader is focused on team, whereas the IBO is focused on sales. So what you could do is you could run 2 separate incentives for the same destination. with two separate sets of rules, but one set of rules pertaining to your IBOs and another set pertaining to your team leaders. And here you could have a situation where they are competing literally. They've got the same experience, they've got the same background, everything works exactly the same, and they can now go and compete with each other. The same with the team leaders. You could say everybody from team leader and above is competing in this other competition, same destination, but you could have another set of rules that focuses on team rather than on personal. And so you can create those two things. Now you need to be able to report live. Everybody needs to know exactly what is going on at any given time. If you want to keep, you know what, you're running a race. One of the things you'll see the top runners do is they keep looking over their shoulder to see who's behind them. And they keep looking forward to see who's in front of them. And the idea is they're trying to catch the guy in front of them and trying to block off the guy behind them from passing them. And you need to do the same thing in the competition. So you need to have reporting that tells the person exactly where they are. Now in Netready, when you look at this graph, you'll see that if I'm Fred Bloggs, and this is me, and I'm looking for myself, that shows me in green as the leader. So I can see not me in green as the leader, me as where I am. So I can see exactly where I am in the scenario. I pop up in green. So here you can see you got Fred Bloggs. If he hovers over this bar, Fred Bloggs, he's in 4th place and he's got 500 points. But the beauty is that he can look at anybody else in the system. So you can see here's John Smith, almost there, 12th place overall, 150 points. Now, if he's the team leader of John Smith, he might phone up John and say, listen, John, you are absolutely cooking. You're almost in the winning circle. And just put your foot in the accelerator. Let's make this happen. Then we've mentioned this, you need to rank the prizes so that the people continue to compete in the winning circle. So here you can see that the guy in the first position is flying business class. He stays in a luxury suite. His food and drinks included. He gets $1,000 spending money. Old Fred is probably going to be flying economy class. He's going to stay in the economy room. His food is included, but no spending money. And over here, this guy is strapped to the wing. He's on the beach in a tent. He pays for his own food and drink. And if he wants to go to the toilet, he gets a spade. So we've ranked this thing. This guy's still going, but he's not having as great an experience as the guy in first position. So again, you are charging these guys up and getting them to compete with each other. Then you want to communicate with them. So you need to be communicating regularly. Here's an example. Hi, James. You are currently in first place with 2,865 points. Joan, however, has 2,500 points and only needs 365 points to take your first prize. I recommend that you keep pushing. So you're telling James, hey, listen, there's somebody hot in your heels. But then the system sends an email or an SMS out to Joan and says, Joan, you are currently in second place with 2,500 points. You only need 365 points to take first place prize. And by the way, Tony's only 10 points behind you. So if you want to remain in second place, I recommend that you keep pushing. At the bottom here, it's, hi, Mary. You're currently in the winning circle with 500 points. But John, however, has 499 points and only needs 2 points to knock you out. I recommend you keep pushing. And of course, it's going to send John a message. Say, hi, John. You only need 2 points to get into the winning circle and join us on this amazing trip. Man, I recommend you keep pushing. And so what you're doing here is you're communicating with these guys and you're telling them, you're driving them through desire and fear. They desire to move up in rank and they fear the guy behind them popping them out of the system. So you can drive this entire group of people very aggressively. And remember, each one of these people have got a team of people who are gathering points for them. So you're pushing them, but they are pushing their team because it's their combined team and them's points that are going to drive them to the winning space. And the timing of the communication is critically important. So what you do is initially, you have weekly messaging. So we always send it out on a Monday, but you can send it out on whatever day you like. And so for the first 4 weeks, you send it to the entire team, every IBO, because you have no idea which of your IBOs are going to be highly successful and which are not. So everybody gets a message telling them where they are in the competition and telling them to go and look at the leaderboard. The next 4 weeks, you start only concentrating on the top 3 groups, which is the winner's circle, the I'm almost there, and I can still make it. So you might have 50 or 100 people in those groups together combined. And so for the next 4 weeks, everybody gets it. The last 4 weeks, you Don't bother about the guys behind. You focus on the winner's circle, almost there, and just the top people in the I can still make it, because those guys have got potential of still making it. But you're driving those people hard. And in the last week, you're sending out a daily message to the winners and the almost there and the top I can still make it. The last day, you're sending out hourly messages, and only to the winners, the winner's circle and the top person in the almost there section. And you are creating an absolute war. Now, one of our clients in the last week of their incentive signed up 1,500 people a day doing this. They just absolutely blitzed it in the last week, but their communication was absolutely excellent as well. Now, at the convention, you're going to have to give out these prizes, and the whole thing is to make this a very, very big deal. An incentive has got to be a massive deal. So that's what you're going to be doing. So you make it a themed evening. So if you're going to Mauritius, it's a beach theme. Now, please tell your people that they cannot come in a G-string, okay? You need to come appropriately dressed, but you have a theme, and you get everybody there with towels and beach umbrellas and whatever, and you put some sand down and you make the place look really amazing and beachy. Then you give a prize out for the best dressed person. So you want to reward the person who really went the extra mile to make things look great. You announce the winners, and you have a representative prize. So if you're doing a Mauritius trip, you might have a tog bag with a towel in, company towel in it, and some sunscreen in it, and their tickets, and then you call up the fifth person or the last person in the competition first, and you slowly work up to the top prize. And every time you work up, you've got a big buzz about what they're actually getting as part of this thing, until the top guy who's going to be flying first class, etc. And then you run a wild card draw for the people in the almost there section. And this is an enormous amount of fun. So you have 20 or 30 or 50 people who are in the almost there section, and you get them up onto stage. You give them each a ticket, and they only get a ticket if they attend. And then you do a reverse draw with them. So the way it works is that each time you draw out a number, the number that you draw out, that person loses and has to go sit down. And so you draw out the number, and you tell everybody the person whose number this is, they lose, they've got to go sit down. So just hope it's not your number, and you psych the people up, and you read out the number, and everybody goes, oh, and the people whose team she's in goes, oh, and they go and sit down. And you keep doing that until you get to the last two people. And here's something that you really need to remember, because this is something that went completely south with one of my clients. When you get to the last two members, you need to tell them clearly, the next number I draw out the box is going to be the winner. Do you understand? So tell me what I said. The next person I draw out is the winner. This number is the winner. Are you ready for this? And just make that clear, because if you don't make it clear, there's suddenly a bun fight over who was actually the winner, and that can be completely disruptive to your business. So what you do is you now draw the last business, and that person's the winner. Of course, they get the prize, and they get the tog bag, and off they go and sit down. Now that there creates the most amazing amount of excitement in the room. These almost their wild card prizes. And of course, that person, those people in the almost there section have worked their guts out, and they've landed up with an opportunity to get a prize in that section. Now, your timing of your evening is very, very important. You've got to build anticipation. So you're telling them from the front, and the last thing we're going to be doing in this evening is giving out our prizes for our incentives and announcing our next incentive. So you want to build excitement and anticipation, etc. here. And it's the last part of the convention. So before you close down, before you say goodbye and good night to everybody, this is the last thing you're going to do. So what you're going to do is, when it comes time, you're going to present the award for the best dressed. Then you're going to have a video showing past incentives to psych everybody up. Then you're going to do the prizes. So you're going to hand out all of the prizes and do the wild card draw. And then you announce the next incentive. And there's brochures and posters are handed out and put up. You have an incredible video of the place you're going to. You have an incentive landing page that they can go to. And then you have a go live countdown, and you get everybody to join in. So we're going live on the new incentive, the Rio incentive, in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, etc. And everybody cheers and whistles and screams, and the incentive is live. And thank you very much for coming, guys. We're looking forward to an enormously big year, and it was great to have you around. And that's it. That's how you close the evening off, by launching your new incentive. Now, while you're away, The idea of an incentive is not to give your money away. So I'm not in favor of prizes that are just like a TV or white good. If you can't afford a trip, then fine, that's where you go. But once you can afford trips, the whole thing is that you want to get your people together. And every single day you'll have a daily meeting. Now, the way we normally did it is 11 to 1. We let the people sleep in the morning. From 11 till 1, we would do training every day while we were away. And the idea is to get these guys completely G'd up. Do goal setting, do training on closing, do training on a whole series of things. Be very well prepared in terms of your training while you're there, because you've got an opportunity with all of your top players from all over the country/world to get them together in one place and actually train the pants off them. And then you have group activities while you're away, because the idea is to build that social cohesion in your top leadership, get them to like and love and respect each other, and that they become part of this amazing family, which is your company. And then you want a professional videographer or photographer with you to take photographs and to do a video of this thing, because this is going to be your parade horse when you get back. So the benefit of this is going to live throughout the year, because if you do a really great video that people can show over and over and over again, that is going to just absolutely reinforce what you're doing in your business. And of course, a professional photographer to get really good photographs for the website when you go and announce what you did and do a write-up in your blog about what happened on the adventure. And then you need to schedule free time for the guys. They need to be able to get out and explore. A big thing you've got to do is make the trip productive. Okay, you're taking your top performers out of the field. Better make sure that that is extremely productive time. So when they come back, they're so fired up that they go and make up for anything you lost during that period in spades. And of course, make the experience amazing. You want them to be chatting about this for the next year at least. It's got to be this incredible experience that they had, that they may never have had any other way other than going with you. Now, you need to put rules in place, and you need to make sure you think through these rules clearly. For instance, can't purchase the incentive. You need to make sure that a person cannot purchase this incentive by just buying a whole bunch of stock or getting their people to buy a bunch of stock, etc. And you need to have that in your rules, that if you catch them doing that, if you catch them front loading, they're gone. They're disqualified from this and all future incentives. So you need to be really strong on that. Then you must make it non-transferable. In other words, if the person cannot make it, they can't send their sister. No. If they can't make it, then they don't come, they lose it, the company keeps the money, and that's that. And the reason for that is that you are trying to build up your top leadership. So if they can't make it, you don't want their sister there. What's their sister got to do with anything? Or their friend or whatever. So if they don't make it, they lose it. So it's a hit it or lose it type deal. Then you can't alter your position. So if the second place person is going and the first place person drops out, the second place person doesn't suddenly move into first class. No. You save the money on first class, you don't have to pay the tickets or whatever, and the company saves that money. The person going in second place goes in second place as they would have anyway. Then any winner in any of the sessions excluded from the following sessions in that competition series. So in that incentive season, which is normally lasting from January to December, if you've won once, you can't win again. So you can't now win for somebody else and give them a ticket. Then you must remain active. If a guy wins in January and then resigns from the company in June, you can't take them on the incentive. I mean, what are they going to do? They've now joined some other company. They're going to try and recruit all your top leadership into a new company. So they must remain active, and you must have rules in place to say that, listen, if they haven't done at least X amount of business over a period of time, then they forfeit. You must have a rule that says the company has total discretion and that they can make a decision at any time to do whatever, including cancel the whole trip if they want. So the reason you do that is you don't want any litigation against you. And then no kids or partners. Remember, you are trying to build a team. You're trying to build cohesion in your team. You're trying to build your salespeople and create the sense of family. What happens if partners and kids are there? As soon as you finish training, the people are off with their partners. They don't become part of the whole. They're not part of the whole team. There's no team growing exercises gone. The partners just push off with their family, and that's it. You don't see them for the rest of the day. And as a matter of fact, they start skipping meetings. They don't want to attend lunch with you. It just becomes a mess. So my recommendation is that no kids, no partners. If you go, this is a company-sponsored event, and they're coming along to that company-sponsored event. You're going to train them. You're going to give them an amazing time. You're going to build team. You're going to do all of those things, but you can't do that when the partners and the kids are around. The biggest rule, The number one rule is you've got to systemize and automate. If you can't systemize and automate this thing, you cannot run those incentives properly. You'll end up with people running around like headless chickens trying to get emails out and all of that kind of stuff. It's just absolutely impossible to do. So we're going to talk about setting up the Netready system in terms of the settings and how you set a competition like this up in the Netready system. I am going to put this section into a training video, which I'll put into the training area in the Netready site, so that those people who want to set up an incentive can actually go into the training and watch this section of the video to see what's going on. But the bottom line is we're going to go through now. I'm going to show it to you here. It's going to be recorded and uploaded. And of course, anybody who's listening on a podcast, you would obviously need to go to MLM-for-CEOs.com and actually watch the video of this. So the first thing you do is you give this incentive a name, because when your people come and look at the incentives, if you've got two incentives running concurrently, one for team leaders, one for IBOs, they need to be able to select which one they're in and choose that one to look at. Then you set a starting date for the incentive and you set an end date for the incentive. Now the incentive will run between those two periods. Next, you've got this thing called grace period. Now what that means is if the person qualifies, you are going to allow X number of days for product to be returned. And if the product gets returned in the 10 days after the competition is run, those points are clawed back out of the incentive and their position is recalculated based on the sales they actually made during that period. Because what we saw happening with one of our clients is that the people would come in on the last day, buy 100,000 rands of the products, and then the following day, first of the month, bring all the product back. Now they'd won the incentive and they brought all the product back. Well, that's obviously not the spirit of things. So you can set up any number of days in which you can actually claw back those points and recalculate it, and it'll obviously shift different people into the winning area. Then who can take part? In this section here, you choose who in your network is allowed to take part. So if this is an IBO or team or up to team leader, you could just click IBOs, C3s, C7s, and business builders. If it was team leaders and above, you could just click all the ones from team leader and above. So you can select who is running in this incentive, and you could run N number of concurrent incentives in the system. Then you can decide on the eligible rank. You could decide that anybody who's an IBO now, for the duration of this system, will only be part of the IBO incentive because you used the rank that they started with. Or you could say, we are going to use the rank they ended with. So if they end as a team leader in their last month of the incentive, then we are going to judge them as a team leader. So that is an option that you have to do. And then the number of winning points. So you can set the number of points a winner has to have. So you can't get into the winning circle unless you've done at least an average of 700 points or whatever, because you might not want to have somebody who's got 50 points who's just getting into the system. They've done very little and now they're winning a trip to wherever. So you can set the minimum number of points for a winner. And then you can also set the minimum daily averages. Now, what that means is that if the company on average is doing, say, $10,000 a day, then you only assign points to people, or you only assign new positions if the company's turnover lifts above the $10,000 a day. So if your business is not hitting the $10,000 day mark, you don't want to be giving out an incentive, because remember, the aim is to grow the team, grow the turnover. So what you do is you put your average minimums in there so that you know that you're only paying this incentive out if the people are hitting above those, if the team as a whole is hitting above the averages. Okay, so how to calculate points. So do you or don't you include your personal points? And if you don't include them at all, then it's all coming from your team. If you do include them, some of them are going to come from you. And then what are your maximum points that you get allowed? And this is again to stop people buying the incentive. Next, you've got your download point loading. So here you can see that for every 100 points I get 500 points from downline. And then you've got your carryover points. So you can carry over points from a previous competition. So if you had a competition January, February, March, and you want to allow somebody to carry points through from that, you can allow them to carry over the points. Then over here, you can say, what is the allocation of total sales? So here's where you put in, I'm allocating 5%. So the system now will say, okay, you're allocating 5% of the system of sales, And it will work out that if the cost of the ticket is $1,000, it will calculate in real time every single time the compensation plan runs. It will run the incentive plan, and it'll work out exactly how many people can come on that trip with you. And it calculates it in real time. Then you can say, what is the minimum number of winners you take? Normally you say, well, we're going to at least give one person an opportunity. So we're going to take one person minimum. So you need to know that you've got the cash to send at least one person. And then you can set what the maximum number of people are. Now, there's no reason to have a limit to the maximum number because the company's turnover determines how many people you take. So you could set this to 20,000 if you wanted to. Or you can say, listen, we're going to not exceed 10 people. That's all we're going to take. No matter what the company does, no matter how high the turnover is, we're only going to take 10 people. So that you can set there. And then you can decide how many people are in the almost there category. So here you see we've got 25. And what is the maximum number of I can still make it? We call it the last ranks, 25. And you click save. Once you click save, this incentive is live. It's running. And it's tracking points and it's doing all of that kind of good stuff in the system. Now, while I'm on here, I'm going to just show you how the reports look. So you click on reports. And this brings up your incentive report and you decide which incentive you want to look at. And you can look at a specific person. So I'm going to look for Richard. And I view that. And here you can see that I'm in the lead. Isn't that clever of me? And it tells me exactly that I've got 20,205 points. The next person in line has got 11,000 points, then 6,000 points, and so on and so forth. So this here is showing exactly in real time where everybody is in the competition, and you can see exactly how many points they have and where those points are coming from. Okay, next let's have a look how we communicate with them in the Netready system. So in the Netready system, to communicate with them, you go up to the autoresponder. And in the autoresponder, we are going to create a recurring campaign here. Now, this recurring campaign, what it means is that it's going to send out an email every X days, X weeks, X hours, etc. It recurs. It's the same email that goes out over and over again, but it pulls in different data every time it goes out. So let's say we're going to create this Hawaii incentive communication. And remember, each position gets communicated with differently. So here we have our Hawaii incentive. Who is this for? So now what we do is we go into our contacts area and we allocate who this is going to go to. So we do this in the segmentation. So the email is going to go out to everybody, but we're going to segment it and we're going to send this out. And if you update the segmentation, you'll see that you've got an incentive category in the recurring area. And the subcategory is all contacts in the winner's rank, or all contacts in the final rank, or all contacts in the almost there rank, or contacts who is in the final position of the almost there rank. So there's filters in here that target every different position, every key position of this thing. So you don't want to put an email together for every single one. The guys in the middle are going to get an email that says, hey, the guy in front of you is 200 points away and the guy behind you is 10 points away, get going. But the guy here is in the final position of the final rank. You want to talk to him. Or the guy who's in the first position of the almost there, you want to talk to him. And so you set up communications for each of these and you decide when those communications are going to go out. And then you say this condition is in the what incentive? And it's in the first quarter Hawaii incentive. So this communication is going out to the person in the first quarter Hawaii incentive, and it's going out to all contacts in the winner's circle, for example. Okay, so you save that. Inside the email area, you put your subject. Hey, you're in the winner's circle, whatever. You decide on what that subject is going to be. You then, and you can come and change it during the season. So you can come and change it from time to time to create a different message if you want. Who's it from? What email is it from? And what is the response to email? In the templates, you choose what template you want. And in the message, you now put your message. Hey, first name. And again, I just want to show you this. If you hit the @ sign, you get all of the different variables. So you say you are in position at, and now here's all of it, everything you need. So you can go pick up the position the person's in, position number, passport number, position above last name. So your position, everything is here. So you can go and pick up specific positions and you can just add them into the system. And so you can customize this thing to the nth degree. You are in position above points difference. And so you can get all of these pieces of information, plug them into the email. So when the email hits the client, it's got all of his personalized information in. You are in position 6. You are 50 points behind the winner. You're 3 points behind you is Tom. All of that stuff you can then just do, and it's all put in here. So the person in second place, it will say to them, "Hi, Mary, you're in second place." And if the second place changes by the time the next email goes up, it'll say, "Hey, John, you're in second place." So it will keep track of exactly who's where in the competition and communicate with them. Now, the beauty of this is you've got a bit of effort when you set up the incentive. You've got to put all of these communications in there. But once they are done, once those communications are there, you forget about it. And the communications drive those people right the way through the incentive. Every single Monday they go out and they're talking to the people exactly where they are. And then you schedule these things in your scheduling area. You tell the system, "Listen, it's scheduled. I'm ready to schedule this." And you decide that this is going to go out in the contact's time zone or a specific time zone. It's going to go out first send. What is the first send date you're going to have? And then what days are you going to send it out? You might only send it Monday to Fridays or whatever. And you might decide that this thing is going to go out on a specific let's say every 7 days, for example. And the maximum number of sends, you decide that it's a 12-week course. So you're going to have 12 sends. Oopsie, 12 sends. So you've now immediately set this thing up to run, that it's going to send to that specific person a specific message once a week or once a day or once an hour, depending on how you want to do this thing. And in the catalog, you'll see down at the bottom, you've got product points. So you click on product points, and now you go through all of your points. So my coffee beans, I'm going to go into my coffee beans, update, and I can decide what incentive points you see here. This is your incentive points. I can decide what incentive points this particular product accrues when somebody buys it. So I can go through the entire product range and I can assign incentive points to all the products based on which products I want to drive with the incentive. And once I've done that, those products, when they're purchased, will obviously result in points accruing to the person who made the purchase or made the sale. So in terms of the Netready system, as you can see, it's extremely simple to set this up and to get it going. And because it's completely automated and you never have to worry about trying to pull reports, etc., the whole thing just works for you. You set it up before the launch, and the day you switch that launch on, that's it. The thing runs and you are absolutely away. So I'm now going to go back here because we're coming into land. Conclusion. What you're looking for is you're looking for a very deliberate strategy when it comes to your incentives. Something that's really well planned out, well thought through, a strategy as good as what you've put into your products or your compensation plan. You want it to be unbelievably aspirational. So you want to have a huge aspirational content to this. The prize must be so desirable. People must want to do it desperately. You need to have clear rules. You need to have a fully automated tracking. You cannot track this manually. It's impossible. You need to have effective reporting so that everybody knows exactly where they are at any given time. You need to automate the communication to the nth degree. So this needs to be fully automated. And of course, you need to bring home an amazing story, because this is going to be something that sees you through the following year. Now, guys, if you want to reach out to me about this, please don't hesitate. You can get me at richard@netreadymlm.com. So feel free to just reach out, richard@netreadymlm.com. There's a lot of information on MLMforCEOs.com, and this particular presentation is going to be actually edited over the next few days or weeks and will be put onto that site. And then if you want to take a look at the Netready system and see how we can help your business, don't hesitate to contact me at netready.co.za or netready.co.uk. I'm certainly be very keen to discuss your project with you and see if we can help you. Thank you very much for joining me. It's really appreciated, and I'm looking very forward to seeing amazing things from my guys. And I think that if you did this, you could have a tremendous impact on your business. So thanks, guys, and it was great having you on board.